Oh, Henry. Why did you not just play your idol, Henry? Why? Come on, even Lockie told you to play it. Why did you not just play it? It couldn't even have been cancelled out because the super idol was already used up last tribal. It would have been so easy for you to avoid being voted out, and you just sat there like a bloody bum and you didn't even play your idol. Oh, it reminded me of that bit in Austin Powers where there's like that security guard who gets run over by the steamroller, and it's like, why don't you just step aside? It's like it was like that with Henry. I'm like, just play your idol, Henry. What are you doing there?
Hang on, I'm gonna floor it. Watch out! Move!
Careful, Austin. Watch out!
Watch out!
Watch out!
Let's go! Come on, let's go!
But, you know, in terms of strategy, because we always like to analyse Australian Survivor for the strategy, we can kind of do a post-mortem on Henry's game here, and I think some of the insights into why he actually got voted out are very interesting because they might go a bit deeper than you think. So let's start at the beginning. The episode starts with Tess and Pete, the only two remaining members of Samatown now, that Ziggy has jumped ship as well, and they're really upset that Ziggy not only has jumped ship, but she also didn't tell them that she has the super idol, and Pete in particular was like, I really feel like you've been stringing me along the entire time. I don't trust you at all. Tess was kind of like, I admire the gameplay, but I don't trust you at all. But Ziggy doesn't really care, because, I mean, she saw which way the tide was going. They'd lost every single tribal since the merge. She's like, I'm not staying with that. Why should I? And then Henry said something which made my heart stop. He said, yeah, I really feel like the king of Survivor right now. Oh, no, Henry, no. I mean, first of all, that's Luke's thing. He's the one who says that all the time, and he still has yet to actually prove that he is the king of Survivor. But at least in Henry's case, when he says he's the king of Survivor, it's because he set up the whole tribal last night, which he actually did. That's true. But he follows that up with, I'm very confident, I'm cruising, I'm sitting pretty. Oh my God, that's exactly what Jarrett said in the episode where he got voted out.
I don't know when you people will learn. As soon as you say, I feel pretty confident, I think I'm going to be safe, that's when you get voted out.
Yeah.
Just stop saying it, you'll be fine.
I knew it. As soon as I said it, I was like, hang on, yeah, I really shouldn't have said that. You know, no matter what, I don't want them to have that footage to use against me.
And this is the first lesson that we can learn from Henry getting taken out here. And that is this. If you feel comfortable in the game of Survivor, it's because everyone around you wants you to feel comfortable. Let me say that again. If you feel comfortable in the game of Survivor, it's because everyone around you wants you to feel comfortable because they're about to blindside you. Like, when you feel safe, that's when you should be the most afraid. I mean, that's what a blindside is. People don't see it coming. So if you don't see any attacks coming your way, that's when you should be the most afraid in Survivor. But he fell into the same trap that Jared did, and that's mistake number one of Henry. It's not his biggest mistake though, but it's mistake number one. Never drop your guard, especially not when things are going your way. Success kind of has that addictive quality, you know, and Henry's had a lot of success up until now. Like, the last couple of tribals have all gone exactly as he wanted. He won an immunity last time. He was able to sit through a challenge where he wasn't protected, but he didn't actually need to play his idol. All these things have kind of built up this success in him, and success kind of gets in your blood after a while, and you start to think that everything you do is going to succeed, because that's just me. I've just got this golden touch, this magic touch. Everything I do is going to work. And pride comes before a fall, as we all know. It's very dangerous. Success can be very dangerous in that regard. But this then leads into the auction, the Survivor auction, in which Luke gets everything. He literally gets everything. Now, Luke was the best guy to win this part of the reward because it was so entertaining watching him just getting all the meals and everything, which is fantastic. I did wonder, I was like, they seem to sort of push them out of there pretty quickly after the auction was done. Did he have time to even finish all of those meals? There were so many meals there. Did he get to take them with him? I don't know. It seemed like they just shoved him out of there pretty quick. Also, I don't think it's fair that he got to share the game advantage. I don't think that was a good move by the producers because, I mean, Pete bid for the game advantage. What's the point of getting the game advantage if Luke also gets to get it? I mean, come on. I don't know. It just doesn't seem right to me. I think it would have been better if they said to Luke, you get to share all of the food items, but not anything else, which means he doesn't get a game advantage, he doesn't get to call home, he just gets all the food. I think that would have been more fair. But Tessa ends up bidding on a reward, which was basically the exact same reward that she actually won at the reward challenge immediately after the merge, but then she gave up in exchange for everyone getting the letters from home, which I said at the time I thought was kind of unfair, because of course she's going to have to give up her reward so that everyone gets their letters. She's not going to take it for herself in front of everyone there, they just vote her out. So I was glad that she finally did actually get that reward here, and she makes a very clever strategic move in taking Michelle. And of course Luke gets to go along too, because he gets everything. Sarah was not happy at all that she wasn't picked, but Tessa's like, it's literally just Tessa and Pete on the bottom too. She doesn't need to worry about offending Sarah, she's just gotta get people on her side. And ending up with Luke and Michelle, who are both part of the old Asaga blood. Great strategy, fantastic strategy from Tess. And oh boy, did it pay off for her in this episode, because it led to the Champagne Alliance. I love how someone on Twitter was like, hey, that's great strategy. Just get Michelle drunk and she'll just blab every single secret she's ever heard. Yeah, it's funny, but it's not true though, because she wasn't just blabbing secrets. Her telling Tess that Henry had an idol was very deliberate and very conscientious strategy from Michelle. And it's interesting rewatching that scene, because in the early conversation, it seems like Tess is getting ready to sort of pitch them to go after Lockie again, like they did before. But Michelle kind of redirects the conversation when she says, because they're kind of talking about, hey, Lockie's real dangerous, but then he's really tight with Henry, and Henry's pretty dangerous as well. So Michelle kind of redirects the target onto Henry by saying, and he has an idol. And that is what really solidifies the target on Henry's back. And you can see the whole game shifts around that. Knowledge that someone who everyone knows is a good player in pretty much every aspect of the game also has an idol, that shifts the entire game to take him out. And this is the biggest mistake that Henry made, and the biggest strategic strategy that we could learn from why Henry got voted out in this sort of post-mortem of Henry's game that we're performing right now. And it's this. How many times do we have to say this? I don't know how many times, but we need to say it again apparently. Don't tell anyone about your idol. Nobody. Don't tell anybody. Because, I mean, look, Annalise got voted out last episode. Why? Mostly because she had an idol. That's why people targeted her. That's certainly why Ziggy targeted her with her super idol. And now this episode, Henry got voted out. Why? Because everybody knows he had an idol. Like, there's only one other person in the game who everyone knows has an idol, which is Ziggy. They mentioned it during the Champagne Alliance thing. I thought that after she played the super idol, people would think, oh, that's the idol out of the way, so she doesn't have an idol now. But they're still talking about she does have an idol. So she must have mentioned to someone that it's like splits into two parts. So now that they know Ziggy still has an idol, if these last two episodes are any guide, she's going to be out next. They're going to be gunning for her next. Like, you don't tell anyone you have an idol. I know people do it because they think it's like it forms a bond with someone else. Don't do it, because who cares? Like, form bonds in other ways, okay? But when you tell someone else that you have an idol, that gives them, that basically means they've got a button they can push to vote you out whenever they want. Because if they want you voted out, all they have to do is go around and tell other people you have an idol, like what happened to Henry right here, and you'll be voted out. You're literally putting your life in someone else's hands in the game when you do that. Don't do it. And to solidify this point, not only does this knowledge that Henry have an idol sink him at the Champagne Alliance, independently, back at camp, separate from all this, Sarah, who also knows that Henry has an idol, goes and exposes to Jericho the whole thing that he's had this since day 4 and that he gave him this clue just to try to keep him on the hook, and that the whole idol goose hunt thing that they did before was all a sham, and that then gets Jericho gunning for Henry as well. So I mean, what are the odds that two different players, Michelle and Sarah, would both be using the same bit of information to take out the same guy with the same strategy at the same time, but totally separately and independently from each other? Like, what are the odds that that would happen? But it just should really solidify, don't tell people about your bloody idol. It's just too dangerous. Because you know what? A lot of people say the Champagne Alliance took out Henry. That's not true, because Lockie later on, he figures it out and he says to Henry, let's say they did flip. Let's say Tessa, Michelle, and Luke join up with Pete and decide to vote you out. That's only 4. He says, we know that between you, me, Tara, and Ziggy, we've got a rock solid 4 over here. So even with the swing votes in the middle, they've got a good chance of like defending against that. So the Champagne Alliance would not have been enough to take out Henry, but that same revelation that Henry has an idol also flipped those 2 swing votes in the middle of Sarah and Jericho over to the Champagne Alliance, even though they didn't actually know what a Champagne Alliance was, because nobody was actually able to strategize in this tribal because they're all stuck in this little hut when it's raining. So after Tess beats Lockie for immunity in what was a nail-biter of a challenge, and Tess put in a really impressive performance in beating Lockie there, Henry is now open to being voted out. So now we're in this situation where the Champagne Alliance wants to take out Henry, but they don't have the numbers. The Sarah and Jericho Alliance want to take out Henry, but they don't know that the Champagne Alliance even exists, and they can't talk to each other because there's no room for strategy with this rain. They're literally, the entire tribe is just huddled in this hut, apart from a brief moment where they get to walk out. So the fact that they even managed to line up their votes at the same time was incredible. Like, all of the stars had to align in order for this to happen. You needed to have Michelle and Sarah both gunning for Henry at the same time, both with the same ammunition of his idol. You needed to have Henry being super cocky and drunk with his success in the previous couple of tribals, and you need to have Henry just not playing his idol. Like, there was so many things that had to line up in order for that tribal to go down the way it did, and if just one of those things had not worked out, Henry would not have gone home. It was just, it's why it was nauseating to watch. I was like, oh, come on. Like, even like Michelle said, when they're in the hut there, she said, just if one person had looked up when she was like mouthing something to someone on the other side, it would have just blown the entire scheme. It was like so close. Just one little thing had gone wrong. It's like, seriously, what are the odds? But, you know, maybe I'm being a little bit too hard on Henry. Maybe he wasn't completely drunk with power, which is why he didn't see what was coming. Maybe it's also, in a weird way, because they weren't able to strategize because of the rain. Yeah, perhaps if there wasn't rain and everyone was able to run around and scramble and make plans, then Henry might have been able to pick up that it's not just the Champagne Alliance, it's also Sarah and Jericho. There's something going on there that might have been able to tip him off so that he'd play his idol. But since the rain prevented anyone from doing any of that, and these were basically 2 independent factions that just happened to temporarily align right before the tribal itself, just through one conversation with Michelle and Sarah, I mean, that's pretty hard to detect, no matter how socially savvy you are. And in the voting patterns at the end, Lockie was right that their 4 did hold strong, and they did vote Peter. That Henry, Lockie, Ziggy and Tara all voted Peter. The Champagne Alliance of Luke, Michelle, Tess and Peter all voted Henry. And the deciding factor is the Sarah and Jericho team up also voted Henry. And because he just didn't see it coming, that's why he got voted out. But really, let's think about this. Okay, so he didn't see it coming, okay, but why was he targeted in the first place? It's because he let people know about his idol. Through giving a clue to Jericho, through telling Annalise. If Henry had just changed that one part of his game and had just kept his big mouth shut about his idol, he would not have even needed to play it, because they probably still would have gone for Lockie. So now that my favourite's gone, who do I think's going to win? Probably Sarah. I'm going to go back to my original prediction based off the edit of the very first episode, in which Joan, the first person voted out, said Sarah's the winner. That's who I'm going to go with. It's definitely going to be a girl, we know that much, because there's so many strong players amongst the girls. There's Sarah's a strong player, Ziggy's a strong player, Michelle and Tessa, after the Champagne Alliance, they're now at the same level and they are strong players. There's not really any guys out there who are at the same level and are actually doing anything. I mean, what's Jericho done? Nothing. What's Pete done? Nothing. Lockie, he's done, like, he's at least won some challenges, but he hasn't done much strategy-wise. So it's definitely going to be one of those 4 girls, but I'm going to pick Sarah because I think Ziggy is going to be targeted as a threat and taken out before the end. I think Michelle is going to make too many enemies and get taken out as a result of that, or she won't win at the end because a lot of her moves have been more behind the scene, they've been less visible. I suppose it's not so much the case now. But I think it will come down to either Sarah and Tess, and they do have kind of similar stories. Like Tess in her tribe, she's like had ups, she's had downs, but she's been able to navigate all of those predicaments and make it to a powerful position here. Sarah has been through pretty much the same. She's been through Asago, the tribe that went to so many tribals and just was picked apart. And there's been many shifts of power already, and hardly anyone has ever wanted to vote her out except that one time when Kent decided to target her. No one else has wanted to target her. So Tess and Sarah have very similar stories. The only difference is Tess is still here because Tarzan gave her an idol and sacrificed himself so she could stay in the game. Sarah has not. So if it comes down to the 2 of them sitting there at the end, Sarah can just turn to her and say, well, Tarzan gave you an idol. That's why you're here. You're not a survivor. you were given an idol as a gift. I never needed that because I played the game much better. And she'd be right. So yeah, Sarah's my pick from now on. So please remember to follow me on Twitter if you want to keep up with my tweets, especially during the show. It's great during the ad breaks to go to the Survivor hashtag and look at all the comments. And if you like this, please share it around with some of your friends who also like Survivor, because it does help the channel, and the channel is growing. We just passed 200 subs. Might not sound a lot to a lot of people, to like other channels, but it's a lot to me. So thanks guys, really appreciate it. Till next time, see you in the comments.